Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the tier list for the Master League for Season 17 of the Go Battle League. We already did one for the Great League as well as for the Ultra League. Definitely check them out if you're interested in what Pokemon are going to be good this season and which are not going to be as great. So we're going to start immediately into this because it's going to maybe take a little bit longer. And I'm not going to talk too much about especially the lower tier Pokemon. First one, Machamp for sure, D tier. It is still usable, you can still use it. All Pokemon that are on this tier list are by the way usable, you're still going to be able to have some kind of success with it, but some are better than others, so we're gonna talk a bit about this. But yeah, Machamp definitely D tier. B tier for Gyarados has some play, just these stats, and sometimes the fast move kind of lets it down a little bit. It has Dragon Breath, which is kind of cool, but for this Pokemon in general, might be a little bit better for now Ho-Oh, which is going to be a little bit more higher up. But I feel like B tier is kind of accurate. Honestly, for me, still, the Snorlax is one of the hidden heroes. For me, A tier. It is my own opinion for this one. I know that people are going to rank it lower, but I really like this Pokemon, even though this, if you look at PvPoke, it doesn't really showcase it, but always when I play this Pokemon, it is really good for me. We're going to have Articuno next, has to be D tier. Is a cool one though, I kind of want to play this with Ice-Wind, looks really cool as a shadow, and Zapdos looks actually really interesting. Also now with the, what's called the Ho-Oh being a little bit better, the shadow variant of Zapdos looks really cool for the Master League. The, Moltres kind of has to be somewhere in the C tier, they're just better variant for this one, mainly of course the Ho-Oh. First S tier Pokemon, not going to be S tier plus, but S tier and S tier plus is just both, all of them are completely top meta, you definitely want to have them. Dragonite, one of the best Pokemon that you can build without having to write any legendary Pokemon. Mewtwo, also S tier, last time I think I put it A tier, I feel like it's a little bit better nowadays again. Less dark types, less steel types, especially now with Ho-Oh, so it's a very neutral pick that definitely works out for a lot of people. Mew is a little bit too weak in terms of the stats. I'm going to put C tier, but it's definitely an interesting pick if you're going to have the Pokemon available for you. Of course, difficult to get the XL candy. I would actually put the Tyranitar to A tier pick. This Pokemon has a lot of play in the current meta. Smackdown or Bite, both of them are very viable. Shadow variant is needed in my opinion because it cannot go through the fast move damage, but Smackdown against Ho-Oh is just so cool, so definitely a cool one there. We're going to have the Lugia, got nerfed with Sky Attack 2 seasons ago. For me, for sure, A tier only. I played recently, it is definitely way weaker than before, but again, A tier Pokemon are also still viable. All of the Pokemon that you see on the tier list, you can play and have some success with. It doesn't mean that those Pokemon are completely trash anyway. First S plus is for me the Ho-Oh. Now with the Incinerate buff, this Pokemon is just insanely strong. Normal Ho-Oh way better than the Shadow variant, by the way, but it's just so over, it's not overpowered itself, I wouldn't say it's crazy overpowered or whatever, but in my opinion S tier plus is just so good neutrally, and has Sacred Fire, which hits for so much damage, Brave Bird, which hits for so much damage. You have Incinerate that got buffed. For me, from S tier to S plus with the Incinerate buff for sure. Next Pokemon coming up, we're going to have Swampert. I'm going to put it into B tier, kinda has some potential in the meta, but again, the stats can all hold it down with only 3000 CP. Actually fairly high ranked on PvPoke, but not as crazy. Same tier can go the Gardevoir. Gardevoir is a shadow variant with the new move Triple Axle is kinda interesting, but it's not going to be the greatest. We're going to have here the next Pokemon being the Metagross. I had it, I think, last time in the S tier category. This time around, it's going to be in the A tier category. With Ho-Oh, you're going to have the hardest answer getting buffed to this Pokemon, which is kind of awkward. Plus, Ho-Oh also going to get rid a little bit of the Fairy type Pokemon, which is also going to be a little bit awkward for the main targets basically for Metagross. So this Pokemon is still viable, but got a little bit of a nerf this season through the Incinerate buff and Fairies being less common. A little bit of a buff this season, got Kyogre. I would actually recommend you to try out Kyogre for sure. This Pokemon is a little bit better now because there are more, I feel more ground types are available, but also more Ho-Ohs when I played it. So this is definitely a strong Pokemon right now, even in the back or whatever, just to counter those Ho-Ohs. It's one of the best answers, so for sure S tier option for me. Same goes for Groudon, still going to be there. I feel it's a little bit worse this time around now because of Ho-Oh being so relevant, but it's still going to be always really, really strong, so anything other than S tier would be a little bit of a lie. I will drop the Rayquaza from S tier to A tier. It is really solid still. Don't get me wrong, this Pokemon is still very good. The PvPoke ranking doesn't really showcase how strong this Pokemon actually is, but again, this Pokemon is still very viable, but I feel it's a little bit worse than, for example, the Dragonite now, because Dragonite is better coverage with Superpower. Garchomp, in my opinion, pretty garbage Pokemon. It is my opinion, of course, you could see completely different things for it. I would put it into C tier. I don't think this Pokemon is really good. Like, it is just, it's just missing something. I don't know. Like, it's just not really having a great set where I'm like, yeah, this is going to be insanely good for it. Maybe it needs something like Scorching Sands if it would learn it. Maybe it would make it better, but right now, not my favorite. One of my favorites is going to be Rhyperior. I don't think S tier would be accurate. I would put it into A tier as well, but a very interesting Pokemon, very strong Pokemon. Made a video about it recently as well. Got also nerfed with Breaking Swipe, but as you saw as well, Much type got buffed, and this makes this Pokemon even more viable. Now with Ho-Oh, you could actually even argue putting it into S tier. I'm going to keep it like high up A tier though. We have the Togekiss, also kind of has to be A tier, is a little bit better than Gardevoir, is going to be able to have a little bit of better matchups, also with Ancient Power, great coverage against Ho-Oh, still doesn't knock it out, but interesting there for sure. And I feel like Mammothspine also got a little bit of like less play this time around because of the Ho-Oh, but very cool answer, especially against Zygarde, which is also a little bit annoying in the Master League. We have Dialga. Dialga is still going to be S tier, high up S tier. Thought about putting this still into S tier plus, but I feel like it is kind of like the power creep is kind of getting Dialga like a little bit more now, because Dialga was like so overpowered for the first season. It's still very, very strong now, but I feel like there are more and more Pokemon that are getting stronger and stronger, which kind of nerfs Dialga with that, because yeah, Incinerate got buffed, stuff like this, Sacred Fire got added to Ho-Oh, while Dialga stays the same since the release, and so yeah, I feel like Dialga kind of still deserves S tier, like high S tier as well, but S tier plus is a little bit too much. I just don't like Palkia. Like, honestly, I just don't like Palkia. I'm gonna put into like low A tier pick. I guess it would be above like Snorlax and Zapdos for sure, but I don't really like it. We're going to have the Heatran. Feel like this Pokemon has a lot of potential. Haven't played it yet since the buff, but like I already liked it prior, so I would put it into the A tier. Also has access to Stone Edge for the Ho-Oh, which is really cool. Giratina is actually ranked 2 on PE Poke. Don't have it yet, but I would imagine, like, also play against it, it's really annoying. It's insanely bulky. Like, it only has like 3,800 CP, but this thing is just insanely bulky. So Giratina with the legs is really strong, but also Giratina without legs is really strong as well. Those kind of are in a similar tier there. As we can move on to Darkrai, has to be kind of somewhere in C tier. I like this Pokemon, but just sadly not really good. Needs like maybe its signature move or something like this, which is already in the code for ages, but like they never really released it, sadly. We have Shaman next. I have one build. Yeah, like what can I say? Especially in the nowadays meta, like nothing more than D tier would be okay for it. Before it was like really decent because you're going to be able to beat something like the Kyogre as well as the Groudon. But now with Ho-Oh being everywhere, I think it's a little bit more tricky to play. A little bit better to play now is going to be though the Hydreigon, which is going to have a better matchup against Ho-Oh. So we're going to put it into the B tier. This is going to be definitely a solid one here to play for the Master League, but again, it's going to be more of an anti-meta spice pick there, but really good against Giratina, Origin especially, as well as Mewtwo, which is nice to have, because Mewtwo usually does not run coverage for Dragon types and Dark types with the Shadow Ball as well as Side Strike moveset, so very interesting Pokemon for it, very interesting Dragon, but again, like it is not the best Dragon for sure. Next one going to be 3 very spicy picks, and I'm gonna put the Cobalion as well as the Virizion into C tier, as well as the Terrakion into B tier. B tier Terrakion because you have access to Rock Slide, which is going to be very good for the Ho-Oh being able to one-shot this thing. But the other one actually having also some kind of access. Of course, Virizion actually has to be a little bit higher. I actually think Cobalion should be a little bit lower, never mind. Cobalion is basically one of the best answers for Dialga because you're going to be able to resist everything. But it's not really that great either. And Virizion is going to be able to break the Dialga plus Kyogre core, which is kind of funny, plus Groudon as well. So it has some niche play. Definitely an interesting Pokemon there, but nothing crazy. Speaking of nothing crazy, I would actually put the Reshiram into B tier, I know, high B tier, and I would put Zekrom into A tier. People are going to complain and say, oh, this is totally wrong. I do get that they have other kind of play as well, but I feel like they're just not the superior dragons, they're just better dragon types around. I would rather play something like a Dragonite or Dialga over those, and that's why I'm gonna put them into those tiers. I see why people maybe want to put Zekrom to S tier, so don't get offended by it, but I know I'm gonna get comments anyway about this, so definitely going to be interesting. What's also going to be interesting is one of the best save-subs here is going to be the Landorus, and I put the other Landorus into A tier because both of them are really, really strong. The Landorus variant is most likely the better one currently. Very high attack stat, very nice CP, Mud Shot, Super Power, Stone Edge, really good, especially with Stone Edge in this current meta, so definitely a cool one here. Kyurem also going to be an A tier Pokemon from me at least, because Pokemon has access to Glaciate, which is kind of cool, and is very solid in the current meta as well. We're going to have next up the Kyurem White, which I'm going to put into S+, and the Kyurem Black, which I'm going to put into high up S tier. I just gonna have to put them in here. Of course, most likely saw the video yesterday that I made about Kyurem Black, which was released on accident from Niantic. Very solid Pokemon. Kyurem White is definitely going to be a little bit better than Kyurem Black, but both of them are going to be very insane, like 5200 CP and a decent moveset and a great typing. It's just kind of wild, so definitely interesting Pokemon there. But if you haven't seen my showcase for the Kyurem Black, definitely take a look at this one. Was uploaded yesterday, definitely an interesting one. Next up going to be Keldeo. Keldeo can join the B tier in my opinion. Having access to Poison Jab is kind of sad. Great stats, great typing. Also Sacred Sword I think it learns, but what you kind of would need would be Double Kick. If this Pokemon gets Double Kick, it would be kind of higher up in the meta, which would be cool. Hopefully it gets it soon. MEWeedle has, in my opinion, to be in the S tier. Like MEWeedle has great stats, great typing. It's just like very difficult to get, that's why you don't really see it too often. But very cool S tier pick there for sure. We're going to have the Genesect, which in my opinion is an A tier Pokemon, has a lot of play against a lot of different Pokemon because of the different kind of typing that you can have coverage here. We're going to have Florges, which kind of can go down to the, what's called to the Gardevoir. I feel like this is kind of accurate for it. We're going to have the Ice Table. The first Ice Table is going to be in the C tier, the normal actually Everluck, yeah, Everluck is the name, the normal Everluck going to be in the C tier, maybe actually higher. Actually I have to put it into B tier. This thing has like crazy bulk, which is kind of wild. I hate to play actually against it, but like more than this would be a little bit inaccurate. And the Everluck in the Hisuian form has to be for me high up A tier, S tier I mean, because like I took a look at this Pokemon recently as well in the Golden Go video. If you haven't seen this one, this Pokemon was by far my MVP, especially in the current meta. I feel like it's going to be even better. So for sure something that you should invest in, one of the best non-legendary Pokemon that you can play for sure. We're going to have next up here the Xerneas. Xerneas, for me, dropped a little bit from S tier into A tier. Main reason for it is that you usually get completely hardwalled by the Ho-Oh. You could have access, I think, to Thunder on this Pokemon, but it's not as great as Zacian, which I can just rank next tier. Zacian is for me still S tier, not S plus anymore, but has just better coverage than the Xerneas, which makes it a little bit more awkward for Xerneas. Still, both of them very, very viable together as well. We're going to have the Yveltal. For me, nothing more than A tier anymore, like lower-ish A tier. I don't think it's that great currently, or like, honestly, have not really ever been that great. But it's still a viable Pokemon again, like all Pokemon that you can see here you can play. It's not that it's going to be garbage. Top S tier, like I'm gonna just put like the last two in there. S plus is going to be Zygarde and Solgaleo. The most broken core in the current meta, like by far, and sadly it's like two very like inaccessible Pokemon for a lot of people, which is just kind of sad to see. So yeah, definitely something that I would not recommend you to play if you're going to encounter those the entire time, but it's the most broken core that you can play. I don't have any of those, but if you have them, you're gonna basically get free legend with that thing. Like, honestly, it's just mad how strong those two Pokemon are. We're going to have Tapu Bulu here next, which I gotta put into like C tier. It is fun to play, but I feel like the current meta is a little bit bad for it. Like a lot of Dragon type Pokemon, which is okay because they are Fairy type, but most of them are Dialga, which still has Iron Head against you. And then you're going to have Ho-Oh everywhere, which is just kind of bad for you. I have to put Nihilego into D tier. I know some people are going to scream, but honestly, it is fun because it has some very, very good matchups, which are mainly like something like Ho-Oh or like some kind of Ice type Pokemon. But any other matchup it's completely horrible in, like gets completely walled by any kind of ground type Pokemon or steel type Pokemon. It's just bad in a meta where a lot of ground and steel type Pokemon are around, so I feel this is accurate. We're going to have next up the Buzzwole, going to be, in my opinion, also a C tier pick. Can do something, but it's not that great. Katana is a fun Pokemon, especially really great if you like to do rockets, because Pokemon is just insane for that. For PvP though, not really that great in the current meta, especially with the Ho-Oh buff like this Pokemon. Does not deserve anything more than D tier. The MEWeedle, in my opinion, is still A tier, especially with like a rock side coverage. Now I guess it's going to be a little bit better. Yeah, A tier I feel like is kind of accurate for MEWeedle. We have the Zamazenta next. More than B tier would be a little bit, yeah, I would just be wrong. Like B tier is maximum that I can give it for it. We have the Ursaluna, in my opinion, maximum C tier. This thing is just too slow for this kind of meta. It's decent for the Premier Cup, but not for this one. We have Skeledirge, which can also go into the C tier. We have the Golden Go, which can go into the B tier, which I already made a video about. fun Pokemon, but definitely not the greatest. We're going to have the last mythical for today, which is going to be the Zerud, which is in my opinion a lower-ish A tier pick, and then we're going to have the Excalibur, which also can go into the A tier. And so this is going to be it for today's video. This is my tier list for the Master League. Let me know in the comment section what you think about it. I feel like that's kind of accurate for what is currently going on. By the way, Kyurems are both like banned, the Kyurem White and Kyurem Black now. Finally, Niantic did this here as well, but for me, I feel like this is kind of an accurate look at the meta. If you agree, let me know in the comment section here. Also, if you don't agree, but yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a like, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.